Hello and welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Mentee, and a familiar face in Delaware is sitting next to me, Senator Colin Bonini, a Republican from Dover, and now...
There are some Republicans in Delaware. Thank you.
You're living proof, and candidate for governor.
Candidate for governor, absolutely.
Why?
Delaware needs to change course. We are, I believe, on the verge of a significant crisis in Delaware, and we need to make some tough decisions. And I don't think the current political establishment, especially how it's evolved the last several years, is going to be willing to make those decisions. And I will make those decisions. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead. But you say words like crisis, and I looked at the tape when you announced you were running, and you have fundamental problems,
right.
Systematic problems. No specifics, though. What's the crisis?
So the crisis is. Number one crisis, of course, is, on 1 through 10, 1 through 9.9 is the economy. We have, I would argue, one of the worst economies in the country in terms of job growth. And when I say job growth, I mean both the quality, but perhaps more importantly, quantity of job growth. We've had some job growth here in Delaware, but it's almost all part-time or very low-wage jobs. I think our health care, middle-class folks in Delaware are getting squeezed, not just by the Affordable Care Act, but just how health care is evolving with higher deductibles and more out-of-pocket expenses, and people in the middle class is getting squeezed out of health care. And quite frankly, the number of middle-class jobs in Delaware just aren't there. And if we don't turn that around, especially with the, I would argue, extraordinarily size and invasiveness of our current state government, we're going to face some real serious problems. And the good news is, this is Delaware. We have resources. We have tremendous, not just financial resources, but intellectual resources. We have the ability in Delaware to get things done across the aisle. So I'm actually, sending the warning, but also saying, hey, we can solve these problems.
But you've had all this before. You acknowledge that. You say we have these resources, we can reach across the aisle.
Right.
So what's the failure?
No, it's a perfect, I'm glad you asked the question. And to me, and I apologize if this sounds oversimplified, but the key ingredient we're missing is the will to do it.
Doesn't seem to make any sense.
Well, let me explain that to you. We have a one-party system, and I'm not a partisan guy. I think if you ask my colleagues in the legislature, I'm, an ideas guy, not a partisan guy. But we've had a one-party system for, I don't know, gosh knows how many years now. And we have an entrenched special interest, and I don't mean this is some evil plot, but we've entrenched special interests that people that have led to a sort of lockdown of the system. And everybody in that building, in Legislative Hall and in state government, knows we need to lower taxes on the middle class, knows we need to pull back spending on, whether it's Medicaid or state employees and their benefits or whatever that case may be. All those decisions are obvious. Everybody knows that to do it, but they're afraid to do it because of the entrenched special interests in Dover. And again,
name names. Who are the special interests?
I would say the labor unions the public sector labor unions. We need to be, I think, a right to work state. I know that's somewhat controversial in some quarters, but I think that's absolutely the right. I think the large state government itself is an entity. We spend, if you include the budget, the bond bill, all these different expenses, we're close to $9 billion a year in total expenditures in Delaware. And and yet we have this economy that is sputtering. We have a public education system that, let's just be honest, is failing to meet the needs of many of our students. We have a significant crime problem in this state. Obviously here in Wilmington is the one that gets the highest profile. But those fundamental things, the economy, public education, and public safety, those are three core areas that I think we're failing in a lot of ways. There's some good stories too, but decisions have to be made to fix those things. And I think, quite frankly, the key ingredient that's missing there is the political courage to do it, and I think I'm confident I can bring that. I really am.
And this is a one-party state.
Yeah, it's a one-party state. Well, we're hoping to be less one-party after 2016.
But there is a problem in that. Is there?
And I agree. Absolutely, there is. And I think I was telling you off air. I have a good friend from Oklahoma. Oklahoma is completely Republican, right? Totally Republican. There's no Democrats elected to anything similar to Delaware. There aren't a whole lot of Republicans elected. And they have a lot of the similar problems. Their political culture has been locked down because people are afraid to offend each other, and people are afraid to confront their friends and their supporters. And I think in Delaware we have to break out of that cycle. And I think a conservative Republican governor is the person to do it.
And yet we named the show the Delaware Way,
right?
Because there's good connotations in that, and there's bad connotations in that in the state. But you, by your own admission, both sides have been working together. Haven't both sides worked together to cause the problems you're talking about?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of blame to go around, including.
So why would that change?
Because, well, I will tell you, it changed for me because I'm a guy willing to rock the boat, and I think that you have my record there. I mean, I have routinely stood up to the political class time and time and time again. I mean, tell you how many 61-to-1 votes there were down in the General Assembly. But you got to have somebody who's willing to make the changes. Somebody say, hey, look, we need to be looking at right to work and opportunity zones. Hey, we need to be looking at education savings accounts and market solutions for our public schools. You know, we need to be somebody say, hey, the middle class is getting squeezed by our tax system. We need to reduce those taxes on businesses and individuals and families, and we need to pull back on spending. And we haven't done those things. And I think everybody knows we need to do those things, but it takes the political will to do that. And, you know, and quite frankly, I'm confident that we can fix it. I mean, Delaware is a place that has resources because of the, you know, we're blessed with the incorporation businesses and the business community here. So we get the resources, a lot of those from out of state. And we have tremendous intellectual capital with our great institutions of higher learning. We just have to put those to work and get past what I think are internal political sort of blocks.
It seems like more than anything else, you're saying that your campaign, almost your slogan is, you're ready to shake things up.
Absolutely, no question. And quite frankly, I'll be very blunt, as you can tell there, I'm a blunt guy. The only chance I have to win, and this is really the only chance I have to win, if Delawareans realize, hey, we deserve better. Things can be a lot better in Delaware than they are now. So.
Let's take a step back. I want to talk about
Sure.
a couple of things that you brought up. The size of government in Delaware. Everybody, many people, especially
Right.
conservatives that run, say they're going to bring down government. They're going to lessen the size of government,
Right.
and it never seems to happen. It's more difficult
it's hard.
to do than say.
There's no question about it, and I've tried several times. But I think if you have a governor, and in the way our structure works, and not just Delaware, I think all small states with part-time legislatures, the governor is clearly the leader.
Okay, get specific. What would you cut?
So, well, I would create an early retirement incentive to reduce the number of state employees. I wouldn't lay people off or fire them, unless obviously they need to be fired, but would create an early retirement incentive to reduce the number of state employees, which is, the money's only in two places there. If you look at it from 30,000-foot view, the money is in Medicaid and in state employees and benefits. That's where the 70% or 65% of our money is in those two things. And obviously, state employees and benefits includes education folks. But if you reduce the number of state employees through an early retirement incentive and you pull back on spending on Medicaid, and by the way, I think they're working on that. I had a meeting with the Secretary of Health and Social Services a couple days ago, and I think to Governor Mark Hell's credit and to Rita Landgraf, the Secretary's credit, they are working on ways to reform Medicaid. But you got to pull back Medicaid, and Medicaid means tough decisions. Those are decisions people really don't want to make. It means telling people you're not eligible. It means perhaps reducing benefits. But I would be willing to do those things, and I think, and I believe, or I would not be running, that Delawareans are beginning to understand that those difficult decisions need to be made.
Does Delaware need pension reform?
It does. We're in better shape than most places, but the reality is it does. And I am not going to lie to you and say that I have a silver bullet for that. There's nobody in this country who has a silver bullet for that. There are some really intriguing public-private partnerships regarding long-term insurance and reinsurance policies and things like this to help stabilize that are beginning to be investigated in other states, and I certainly think Delaware should look at it.
Okay, I want to get into the crime in Wilmington and talk specifically about that, because I think that's become a national embarrassment for Delaware.
That's the right word.
And the politics as well, when we come back in just a moment on the Delaware Way with State Senator Colin Bonini.